Well, hello, creatives, community, and kind folks. Welcome to RPG with DBJ. I am your host, DBJ, and today we're going to talk about something that I think it's left the indie tabletop RPG community. And while this isn't exactly third pillar stuff like exploration, it'll combine. Let give me an opportunity to explain. Um, all of you who participate in the show live, you guys know you're the co-host, and of course, we to make me look brilliant, you guys make the show look brilliant. Of course, we're already starting with comment here. Thank you very much, there, Mike, for showing up here, and everybody else who's part of the show. Um, Today, we're going to talk about. It's been called yes and no but, called complications, um, failing uh, failing forward, succeeding with cost. We've heard a lot of these. The latest term that I like is not passing or failing, but you get what you don't want. And I kind of like that idea as well. Like it's not that you get what you want or you don't get what you want. It's you get what you don't want. And so we're going to kind of combine like um elements of like success and failure. And because we're going to talk about the third pillar of exploration, how maybe it has nothing to do with the capabilities of the character. Maybe they're not, it has nothing to do with how skilled they are, or making them look embarrassed, or the GM or dungeon master, narrator, storyteller having to come up with how they failed in terms of their capabilities, but maybe some third party came in and affected it, and that's why it happened. Or maybe success isn't exactly the kind of success we're thinking of. So I'm going into the chat here for our co-host. Mike says sometimes I'll bargain with players who fail a check or save by one. Mind you, this is in the Dungeon Master's Guide. Do I have my Dungeon Master's Guide nearby? I ended up having a. I don't have it. I didn't even think about it. Yeah, in the Dungeon Master's Guide, and I don't know what page it is for the fifth edition Dungeons and Dragons. It does have a like succeed with cost mechanism, and it's buried in there. Very few people have even read the darn thing, but they have that. But anyway, Mike says, quote, I'll let you pass that, but with a complication. Like, what if, and if they agree, the roll passes, but they have extra work to do, or it entangles another PC into the effort. And it's this idea, we see this so often with television and movies and comic books and graphic novels where our heroes are capable, and in effect they actually keep succeeding, but things keep going wrong as they succeed. It's not that they're horrible in their efforts. They're not doing a Han Solo trying to convince the guards on the other end of the microphone that they belong there and doing a bad job of it. It's more like, oh, we need to escape out of this room. Let's blast through the wall and jump through a duct, and now we end up falling into the trash compactor. Right? That's kind of like a complication that happens. Complications can happen. We It's the classic picking the lock, and it's like, okay, well, if I pass or fail picking the lock, are there other interesting things going to happen? Do I break the lock picks? Do I drop the lock picks and they roll under the door? Do I make too much noise? Um, do I break the lock picks off in the lock, now preventing further lock picking shenanigans? Things like that. Drude Fuzz says the cool thing I like about my system is that it completely avoids the hit point attrition fights, which I always find so boring. That's another thing about numerical hit points versus more of an indie wound system or complication system. Now, wound systems are one thing where it does it it tips its toe into the waters of complications, right? Where a wound system is like you're stunned, you're confused, you are slower, you are weakened, you Some combine wound systems with complications. You lose one of your legs is useless. One of your arms, you lose sight in an eye, or you become blinded or deafened. Your back is hurt and you can't carry things. You're bleeding. You have a punctured lung, and you suffer exhaustion or something like that. And I feel like I feel like there's a natural tendency to do this, even if the rules don't um, express it. And I say this because even in Dungeons and Dragons, we do this all the time, right? Like you need to take a d20, and with all your modifiers, you need to roll a 12 or over. And how many times have we sat there and watched someone roll a 13 and go, "Oh, I barely made it," and someone else rolls an 18 and they go, "Yeah," but mechanically it doesn't matter. But our mindset delves into there should be some difference in this between success and failure. If I fail to roll above a 12 and I roll a 10, I go, well, I almost made it. But if I roll a 2, it's like it feels natural for that to happen. And by the way, in a D20 system, pass fail, you can actually do that if you just go by fives and tens as an example, or like ones or twos or something. Like if you roll within 5 of like your DC, you can say you have partial success or partial failure. And if you roll on the far ends, like 10 or above, 10 below, might be complete successes and complete failures, things like that. Zamara says, "Oh, I turn successful rolls into future failures all the time, such as one of my players stealing a healing potion on their first session, coming back to bite them in session 20." Yeah, that's the long game right there. But yeah, there is that. Drew says, "So no beating a dragon to death in my system." That's a different subject. Maybe we'll do that. We could throw that in next week about, like, it's the classic image of the adventuring party standing in front of like a 50-ton monstrous being, like a demon or a dragon or something, and everyone like poking it to death with their swords. It just seems a little bit it the reality part of my brain is like, yeah, that's not going to work. And I know it's all magic and fantasy and stuff, but a lot of times, even when they portray things like that, it's it's the heroes coming up with a creative problem solving solution. So yeah, Mike says this sort of thing is also part of my token milestone system. Okay, I need to email that to you, TBJ. Oh, okay, all right, all right, okay, all right, okay. Let me get back to some of these other comments, and then I will delve further into like some practical ways we can think about this, and you know kind of putting like basically a concrete system in our head, so that that muscle doesn't atrophy, and we don't laugh at the failures of our players when they attempt to do something, and we create something more interesting. And I will explain why it is that I'm down here in the corner, and I have part of my environment descriptors down here, because that's going to be involved in our conversation today. So Mara says, or see, when my players manage to scare off their early game boss at session 4, oh yeah, only for it to return back in session 24, smashing their village and then turning undead because the big boss is in play. I love advancing bad guys, like having them run. PCs hate when bad guys run away, but I love the idea of like the level advancement for the bad guy. I love it. Not literally, but like they come back with a more skilled army with them, or they have to have like those special bodyguards, or um, they're on flying mounts and they've got pets, or they got some like magical items with them. Oh, I love that. Rain Brack says, narrate results based off how badly or how successful the roll turned out. I used to do something like this. Also good for working crits into the game. Yeah, narrate a result as it makes sense to you. I absolutely. That's Listen, narrating. We can all play role playing games with almost zero description, because it has a mechanical thing. Like I could say, I'm going to use my axe. I rolled a 14. I do 6 damage, and then the dungeon master goes back and goes, "All right, you did 6 damage. Um, I'll tell you how many hit points. It's down to 54. Okay, it attacks you once, twice, and does a total of 13 piercing and 4 necrotic. Okay, I subtract that from like you could do that, and fine on a little on some of those like uh, side missions, or you're really trying to blow through it. That's fine. It Listen, Dungeons and Dragons is a hit point attrition game, but I think there's something more to it, and we'll get into it. Anyway, let me finish this off. Zamar says, I've read Druten Fuzz one-page version of their system. It's legit super great. Ooh, we're gonna have to do a co-host focused. Hold me to this. We're gonna do a co-host focused um introduction, like gaming mechanic, gaming system thing here. We've got to do it. Gotta do it. Gotta do it. I don't doubt what you have to say there, Z. For your system, Druden's system, Mike's, we have to do it. Mike says it's the Die Hard cinematic. Sure, you got that bad guy, but now you don't have shoes. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Hey, Die Hard is full of stuff like that. Oh, I don't know. There's a helicopter and they're shooting automatic fire at me. I'm going to jump off the roof by tying something around my waist. Oops, I'm hanging off the side of the building. I'm going to use my gun to blast through the glass window. Oops, now that I swung inside of the building, now the thing that was holding me up falls and starts to drag me out of the window, right? Like it's one thing after another. And a lot of times those elements aren't other people. It's the environment that's having its way with the PCs, right? Mike says I'd advance bad guys plots campaign to campaign, which makes new PCs deal with old PC issues they ignored. That is the what game is it? Is it uh Dungeon World that has something called fronts? Icon I'm mixing Dungeon World and Apocalypse World or something like that, or Powered by the Apocalypse, something where they have both icons and or fronts, where there are these like important figures in the background, and if you don't do anything about them, their plots continue to move forward, and it's like it's like a game of whack-a-mole for the player characters, something like that. I don't have the game, but I've heard people talk about it because I've listened to um, world building and actual plays, things like that. Wayne says, I dislike roll on this chart systems for results. Oh, too limiting and often don't really mix well with the current situation. Narrate, use that imagination gene. It's our job, grow the imagination. I both agree and slightly disagree with you. Oh, Druden says it's 13th age. There we go. 13th age had fronts and icons. Yeah, 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 yeah. Where there are important. I'm going to slightly pull it away from 13th age in a way. Like it doesn't even have to be people. It can be things happening in the background. For example, here for those of us that live in the United States, from the beginning of the year to the end of the year, we know certain sections of the United States go through weather events that are um, darn near cataclysmic. And we know about forest fires and mudslides and hurricanes and tornado season and heat waves and freezing conditions, right? Like, and we go through, and these things happen. So the fronts and icons of things happening in the background don't necessarily have to be people. It could be, hey, that area with the 13, 14 volcanoes, guess what? They're gonna start to erupt and people are leaving the region. Or hey, it's storm season, batten down the hatches. People that live in the mountainous valley, hey, here comes winter season coming in, and it's gonna sock us in. So a lot of those things can happen, and then can affect. We can even take this and bring it down to even the combat, where a player character is an excellent sniper and gets ready to shoot someone and they fail the roll, and it's not like, oh, you just happen to be a terrible sniper. Maybe that arrow or whatever, or that bullet goes through a bird that goes by, or um, the target is distracted some kind of way. You know what I mean? Mm-mm-mm. Mike says, I mean, my PCs have altered my world map several times. That has to have had repercussions. Yeah, 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 yeah. Don't hold on too tightly to your darlings. Let the PCs have some fun with that. Drew says, "Well, wait till I really have completed my system. My one page game was just a little design jam. Oh, hell's yes, yeah, you got to do that. Got to do that. Mm-mm-mm. Right. Oh, you guys have always have something to say. All right, okay. So here, I want to bring up the idea of using. Okay, um, a foreshadow, which helps yourself and other people, and then when needed, bring those elements in so that you can use them. So when you want to adjudicate successes and failures, and failing forward and succeeding with cost, and we'll explain some of that, because I know you guys already know it, but there might be people who don't. That it makes things even, the narrative positions that PCs are in makes it even that much better. Like, for example, um, Mr. Spencer. Hey, 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 hey. Sorry, just looking at our co-hosts here that have joined us. So the one thing is foreshadow, 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 foreshadow. If there's something that the players are unaware of and they haven't done their due diligence, you haven't hate to say this, use this word, but you haven't trained your players to explore your world. Foreshadow, foreshadow, foreshadows. Have something, have multiple, hit them with the clue stick, right? Have things in the world that lets them know that there's a good chance these problems are going to come up. If they go into a war torn valley, in a particular kingdom, tell them that they barely missed a patrol of guards that are going around and that they're looking for their bounty hunters. There are um, patrols with these one-eyed bestial creatures that can sniff out enemies or something, and the PCs have to dodge around them. Tell them that there's dark clouds on the horizon, and the winds are picking up, and the NPCs are mentioning like, "Oh, this is a bad omen. Storm season has come close," and the PCs get off a sailing ship, and the ship is being tossed around, and there's winds that are being pelted by hail, and let that happen so that if you want to include um, environmental effects like wind, that where it affects ranged weapons and attacks, it could bring cold weather with it. It could bring hail that could cause damaging effects, or fog could roll in. Um, uh, the waves, the ocean surge could be so much that it could sweep up onto land, pelting the PCs and NPCs, dragging them back off the docks and back out into the water, or things like that. Lightning bolts striking from the sky, the sound of thunder deafening people, right? Like, this is just one kind of weather effect. It could be maybe just a natural thing where the forests start to burn. That's a very natural thing, especially that happens here. It happens around the world, but here in the United States, we have out the far west plains, dry kindling, lightning bolt, boom, sets fire. And despite the fact that we've moved to those places, it's a very natural condition. So smoke and ash and heat and fire and panicked animals or beasts or monstrosities start coming out of the woods, and so on and so forth. Tree branches falling, all that kind of stuff can happen. So, and those are just environmental effects, and we're not talking about the actions and reactions of a campaign world that changed because the PCs did things to change everything. Mike says to I'll get to Zamar's comment in a minute. To Mike says to that front concept, I avoid singular big bad evil guys. Yeah. Instead, I'll throw multiple bad guys at the PCs whom they have their own agendas. Orc warlords have different motivations than an undead chieftain, or dragon newly awakened, or an empire with religious zealotry, or the list goes on. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Also, just listen, it's a great talk about the foreshadowing thing. It's a great way to throw in, like, you know what? If they beat ass on my undead, uh, king or something like that, I've got the demonic queen hanging in the background, just to, and in your head you're like modifying numbers, like, okay, okay, they sure did kick the ass of this one. Okay, let's come up with something else, right? Mr. Spenzar, what's going on? Depending on the scale of the campaign and the time scale you're operating on, other problems getting worse as they're ignored can be a ton of fun. You said three problems. If you imagine three problems, okay, three problems. Okay, so if you imagine three problems, say a band of bandits is raiding merchant caravans, a local religious sect, that's getting out of line, and some local monster getting territorial, with the town. Yeah. Oh, oh, thank you very much for the comment there. Yeah, like having basically create like three problems, because they're first of all, three is a great, for design purposes. The number three is an excellent world building number, because odd numbers make perfect conflict, and it's the minimal number you can have to make a triangle where you it's difficult to have a quorum, right? Even numbers mean, four means that two sides make it equal, and there's a stalemate. Three makes sure that it's almost never a stalemate, as a minimum number. So yeah, for world building, I'm leaving that up here. Zamar says, as the players go through their story. Oh, shoot, I missed a comment. Okay, here we go. Big bad concept. Players keep running into the lesser bad guy. Okay, the lesser bad guy. I like that LBG. The lesser bad guy is always significantly weaker than the players, okay, but always just manages to get away when the PCs manage to beat him. Okay, all right, okay, here we go. I'm feeling you. Although you're going to get a lot of players pissed off, which I love. I love it. As the players go through their story, they defeat much larger challenges, with the lesser bad guy meeting them near the end, trying to beat them until they make it to their final dungeon. And the lesser bad guy is there, okay, and have beat them there. What is more, they won the challenge because they were weak and had to escape so much. And now they challenge the PCs with a new power they gained. Yeah, that is a classic. Like, have we've seen stories where the 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 one on the throne really isn't the danger. It's the assassin or the spy that whispers in their ear that's the real problem. Right? Like a doppelganger could be technically the worst enemy in a game if that doppelganger's running from, let's say, the religious sect, and it's whispering in the ear of the religious order, and then running over to the dragon and whispering in their ear, and then running over to the demon lord that escaped the abyss and is now ruling over this group of people in these caves, or something. Like the doppelganger could just be like whispering, like, I hear there's a group of adventurers, and blah 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 blah, and the dragon's ears perk up and is like, you've done me well, take some gold over here, or something. Well, no, I don't know if a dragon would give away some of his gold. It would point its way to maybe somebody else, right? Like all those things. Yeah. Mr. Spencer says all three of those things, if ignored, will probably get exponentially worse. The three the three problem, not the three body problem, but the three problem is awesome, because Pete, listen, we do when you start dropping hints and clues and story hooks, your players are going to ignore some of those story hooks. That's a perfect opportunity for you to go, okay, you didn't pull on that thread. That's fine. Let's go into something else. Yeah, Mike says, yeah, the power behind the throne is typically a better villain. So what we're talking here is we can use physical elements. When I say physical, like physical elements of the world, the weather, the way things arcanely changing your world. Maybe there are celestial events. Um, let's not forget to use them so that we can challenge our players. Heck, I think it's even I know we love the idea of surprising our players, but sometimes it can sound like a gotcha. So if you have a dungeon, let's go classic dungeon. If you have a dungeon where when they come into the dungeon and they're in a hallway and there's an open pit with spikes and skeletal bodies down there because people fell in it, and that's you foreshadowing that there might be other traps and things in the dungeon, that's cool. That lets them know that they might have to they should have brought a 10-foot pole. They should have brought the sand or powder. They should have brought the ball bearings, right? They should have brought with them a tinder box or a mirror. I'm going a little OSR here, a little old school, but yeah, it, those are the kind of things. And narratively, having dropping little hints, let more bad guys simmer in the background while you get your while they're eating their main meal. They're like looking for the dessert, but their main meal. So yeah, I love Spenzar's Mr. Spenz's thing about having at least three problems in the background. So we are talking third pillar of exploration, and we're going to talk about like failing forward or failing forward or success with a cost, conditions, yes and no but. So in terms of like for me, because being the self-appointed third pillarist, there are things we can put in our background, especially when we're dealing about mechanical things, so that it changes the dynamics. So just looking at like the first three on here, the environmental descriptors, aftermath is basically like the players do something that as a as the dungeon master, narrator, storyteller, or whatever, we get to use their thing and change the background, right? It's the listen, PCs love setting fire to all kinds of things. Let that up. How many times have we read in a game book where it says it lights flammable things on fire? Take it to its extreme. Tapestry lights on fire, then the ceiling, then the bed, then let the fire spread. Make it become a problem. Sure, if a player says, "Can I grab the bad guy and shove him into the fire?" Of course you can. Can a bad guy grab a burning tapestry and try to throw it over the head of a PC? Of course you should do that, right? Maybe the fire gets so bad and it's smoke that fills the subterranean realm because the fires you lit the I don't know the fungus on fire or something. Let those things happen, and what happens when a p- wizard spellcaster blasts at an enemy misses? What happens when it misses? Right, that ray of frost or whatever. Something has to happen. How about dead bodies? PCs kill 13 goblins. Those dead bodies are hanging around. Do you stand on top of it? You trip and fall? I one time could not come up with an encounter to save my life, and our players knew it. We this is when we were so young, and we were just coming up with shit out of our ass. And I just had hordes. I don't think they were goblins. I think they were like orcs or hobgoblins or something. And so we made an encounter where it was just a war horde, and the bodies kept piling up and the PCs were standing on top of them and stuff. And and we just turned it into this whole like wave after wave, and the PCs fighting them, and the wave it just the ground got started getting soaked in blood, and there was piles of bodies, and if you stepped wrong, the piles of bodies would fall down the hill, and it could overrun you and stuff. It was just a weird thing, and we just went on and on with it. It was crazy, crazy fun, but a little bit. We took it a little bit too far, but it was fun anyway. Um, Sorry that John Andrew couldn't stay, but yeah, absolutely. Uh, Mike says, power and nature abhor a vacuum. With multiple bad guys at play, the loss of one means others will seize territory or interest. And yeah, and grow in power. Remember, when you read a monster stat block, that is the average. If here's another thing that people seem to ignore. Most gaming books tell you if you don't like it, change it. In the monster manual itself in fifth edition, at the beginning of the chapter, it says that if you want to change or modify or add other monster capabilities, just add it on there. Yeah, just add it. Um, m- uh, Average hit points, no, give them max. You know, up the AC, add an extra attack, add a die or three from extra damage. Give them other damage potentials, like add some extra dice for poison damage or fire damage or necrotic or something like that. And that's just fifth edition. Don't Let's not talk about other game systems as well. Zamara says, or have the rival use these things to easily pass by traps and trials, and the players would have struggled with, yeah, and even brag about using their wits rather than their strengths. Like, for example, um, a great reason why I'm such a proponent of using the environment is because you can adjust the power level of your enemies by either having them unadapted to the region that they're in or having them well adapted to the region. So kind of riffing on what Z has to say here is like, I don't know, owl bears, yetis, polar bears, white dragons. Let's throw some other things in there that aren't Arctic. Ogres, um, uh, death dogs, uh, winter wolves. Let's say you have an Arctic region and your players are traveling through it. Well, you can choose to have your enemies adapted to the region. They don't make saves. They don't get harmed by cold. They don't make saves to slip and fall. They're allowed to, like, what's the land shark, the boulet, can instead of burrowing, or a purple worm, instead of burrowing, it basically can swim through snow. You could take aquatic creatures and kind of do the same thing, and so they're adapted to the cold. But the PCs, they're not adapted to it. They have to make, if they fall prone, they've got to make a athletics check to stand up, and because it's so slippery, they can't see through the snow, but they have enemies or bad guys or monstrous creatures or tentacles or something slipping around underneath the snow that they can't see. A blizzard is happening and they can't target the yetis during the blizzard, but the yetis sure can grab the PCs by their ankles and drag them off into the into the wild and such. You could do the opposite by having them not adapted. Maybe the PCs are bounty hunters and are going after a hobgoblin horde that kidnapped some people from a village, and they're taking them back to their demonic uh, leader, and they have to make saves, or you find a couple of dead bodies because they're from the frostbite, and nope, they can't see in the blizzard either, and the PCs could use that against them. So there are ways to twist and turn things like that. I think I lost where my mind was going, but Drudens, please stop. Of course I'm wrong. Like, aren't fungi too moist? Yes. And moist, one of the few words in the English language that sounds like what it is. Sit on that. Sit on that for a minute. Zamar says, let the fire spread. Okay. That does require not having everything be on fire instantly as a consequence of actions. A useful skill to learn how to have consequences happen gradually. And that's exactly what I think we can learn, right? Like, if we can keep some of this stuff in our back pocket and then pull that out as people running the game to go, man, this encounter is boring, or I don't know what to add in next, and go, okay, the fire gets worse, and you just write down a couple of ideas and listen. Players, listen to the players. Sometimes they'll come up with. We're a hive mind, and we're smarter because of the hive mind. If the players start talking about, ooh, your burning hand spell set the abandoned building on fire, we better be careful, right? It, right? Yeah, yeah. Wait, Mm-mm-mm. Absolutely. So, where's the winter wolves? I love those. Uh, Mike says weather is the unsung villain we all deal with daily. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Wayne says 24-hour snowfall started on Saturday. Have another starting later today. Ooh. And Zamar says, I miss Florida. The world is too cold. I mean, Florida's too cold. It is too, but geez. See, and that's uh, you know how there are people who have channels from overseas. For those of us that live in the United States, there are people who have channels overseas that listen to they kind of like um, listen to people talk about like the size of the United States, the weather of the United States, the population, and things. And I've always wanted to, always felt like if I didn't do this, I would be doing a channel where we delve into the myths and features of just living in the United States. And listen, like I'm in the Ohio Valley, so describing the Ohio Valley, we Central Ohio is a has a heat dome in a bowl. So as while it is relatively flat, and I say relatively, it's not like a Wyoming or something like that, right? Or Nevada or whatever. There aren't huge swaths. Even Texas has huge swaths of like completely flat regions, but it is a bowl. And us in the center of the bowl, luckily, we have a heat dome, so our population and city gets a little bit of heat over it. So when weather comes towards us, it'll start to diverge to the north or south. So one of the effects of that is I'm gonna bring up something lake effect snow to the north of me. So it's about a 2 hour and a half traffic 2 hour drive to get up north to the Great Lakes, where the Great Lakes from the weather from Canada, the cold system from Canada will sweep down into the United States, blow across the Great Lakes, and dump snow. And we're talking feet of snow. And thank goodness it turns pretty much to either rain or flurries, which we've had past couple days here in the Ohio Valley. But man, you drive a short distance north, and it goes from oh, it's chilly to uh my nose is running and I might cut myself um from the snot icicles that are coming down on the top of my lip. Like it is just, and you talk about the trying to shovel all that crap. No thank you, lake effect snow. And there are people who love it up there in the Great Lakes. I don't know. And yes, I think I lost where my mind was going all the time there. Wait, Zamar says, I have never seen a flurry or snow, and I don't want to. Oh, there's all kinds of names for it too. For those who live in wintry regions, we've got snow, sleet, hail, flurries, blizzards, whiteouts. Yeah, Wayne says lake effect snow is 4 blocks from me. Yeah, yeah, lake effect. Basically, it's just cold air that sweeps across a giant. It picks up speed across the giant lakes and gets the moisture that's evaporating off the top of the lakes and then freezes it and then dumps it onto land. And so it's not a traditional look up in the clouds, there's snow. It's just basically wind blows across a lake and it just dumps. It's crazy. But as well as like Zamar says, I'm saying they miss Florida. You talk about a place with a humidity level, especially June, July, August, that is killer. I mean, literally killer. People have lost their lives from the heat that's there. And when you have super high humidity, the body's ability to regulate its temperature is um, to release the heat inside of us outside. It's hard for us to evaporate the sweat and stuff. I mean, you just get soaked. Sorry. So my little list of environmental descriptors are like ways to that it's my version of coming up with a way to describe a thing that we put in our back pocket to allow us to complicate the lives of our player characters. So I'm going to quickly go through this and then we'll talk about other things. Epic level craft. Hello, good sir. No, hello to you. Don't uh, I don't believe I've had you in the chat, but I'm glad you're a co-host here. Hello there. So, conditional environments are like if then. It basically setting up a conditions. Like for example, flammable materials are only conditionally dangerous if they're set on fire. The abandoned building the PCs are traveling through, the warehouse that they might set fire to, the chemicals from the alchemist has or something. Escalating, that escalating is just getting more and more dangerous. Um, Lord, I bring this up a lot. Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring, going through the mines of Mordor, going down the steps. I don't Again, why dwarves don't have safety features like handrails, I don't know. But whatever the case may be, going down those steps, it was an escalating danger that we could add into our realm. Fires growing, cold weather coming in, an escalating. If you want to use monsters, reinforcements, waves of monsters coming in. Um, those kind of things. Sorry, my brain is. I'm thinking further ahead to another subject we need to get on. So escalating environments are ones that are just getting worse. Mobile environments are things like raging rivers, conveyor belts, floodwaters, 50-foot waves that washing across a deck. It's like there's something in environment that if you don't take action, it's going to move you. It could be continuous, like a conveyor belt. We've seen this in movies and television shows. People fighting on some kind of conveyor that's moving towards like a furnace or a foundry or a forge or something. There might be a raging river and people are fighting on a piece of debris or ice flow or something, and it might be heading towards a waterfall. Something that just keeps moving through the region. High winds is a good example. Maybe you're down in the underdark and there's a wind tunnel that's blowing out torches, and range attacks are being blown away. And if you're not careful, if you don't hold on, you're going to get blown away too. Tornadoes, hurricanes kind of fit into that region. Random is that random takes two can be one of two things. Random could be like random bolts of lightning striking nearby, random bits of debris being picked up and tossed down, random meteors falling from the sky. Random could also be like maybe you have a small list, a D4, D6 list of random things that might happen in a battle. Random things like a cavalry charge. Number one, cavalry charge comes through the area where the PCs are fighting. Number two, volley of arrows falls from overhead and they have to take cover from their shields. Number three, flaming pitch is fired where the PCs are. Number four, a trebuchet launches a chunk of castle wall where the pieces are. Number five might be lancers. Mounted lancers are coming through. Number six might be. Oh man. Hey Wayne. I might be describing a bad Star Wars movie, but I'll guarantee you the opinion of Star Wars movies today. I bet mine are like gold. Bam, Star Wars burn, bam. But anyway, reactive environments. If you do something, it reacts. If you step on the thing, it breaks. Like the frozen lake idea, the rickety rope bridge idea as well. Stacked environments are like the PCs have a danger, and then it begins to stack. Things keep stacking on top of each other. The burning building or burning forest fire is a good idea of a stacked environment. So, okay, now it's on fire. So fire is danger, and if you don't touch the fire, you're fine. But you could kick somebody in the chest and knock them into it, right? But then the fire might get higher and burn more, so it starts taking away the land that you can move in. And then, oh, there's smoke, so there's might be a choking hazard. The smoke is thick. We're stacking now a visual hazard onto it. So things like that. Yeah, I'm trying to catch up as well. Static environments are the most boring environment. You're either in darkness or you're out of it. You're either underwater or you're not. You're either in the cold or you're in the warm building. So yeah, I'm always trying to catch up. My mind is always behind. You might have a timed environmental feature. In 4 rounds, another huge white-capped wave is going to sweep across the docks and it's going to slam into everybody. Everyone's going to have to make DC 15 dexterity slash acrobatics or athletics checks to hold on, or else they're going to get kicked off and thrown into the water, right? Um, every 2 rounds, a bolt of lightning strikes down from above. Everybody roll a d20. Whoever gets the lowest roll gets targeted by that lightning bolt, right? Like a timed event could happen. A timed event could be a pendulum swing. Every other round, the pendulum swings right back through the room, and you got to watch out, or you're going to get sliced in half. Um, that kind of thing. Um, Trapped regions are basically traps that you got to watch out because you trigger the trap, and then you have triggered things, which is conditional and triggered is kind of similar, where it's like it's ready to do a thing if you do a thing to it. So, um, let's say there's a dead forest, and a triggering effect might be leaning or pushing up against any of the trees. And if you do that, the tree's going to fall over because they're dead from the inside, and they'll fall over, and they're a hazard. It might fall on top of you or an enemy. And the PCs might say, I'm going to take my hammer and slam the base of the tree and knock it over. Sure. But an NPC might go, that hobgoblin might run over and speak hobgoblinese, and then take its you know, rusty short sword and or shoulder its way into a tree and try to knock it over into a PC or something like that. I so agree with you, Drew. I so I'm so on the same page with you. I love the TV, the Andor TV show, which there was a podcast called No Ifs Andor Buts, which I thought was a very cool title. All right, so getting segueing back into using environmental effects and failing forward or succeeding with cost. Um, yes and no buts, conditions, those kind of things. This is really this is no longer indie gaming. This is base Pathfinder, Dungeons and Dragons, Call of Cthulhu. Um, this is OSR. This is part of gaming now, and I think it's a way for us. I hear you, Wayne. I feel like this is our way of modifying and basically growing within the hobby. And so for me, failing, there's not much difference between failing forward and succeeding with cost, except for did the player get what they wanted? And one of the difficulties sometimes is thinking of these things on the fly, and this is where you should really embrace your player play the player characters, where you embrace your players' ingenuity to come up with ways to to say, hey, listen, I wanted to jump across the chasm. One completely fails, one fails but fails forward, one succeeds with the cost, one succeeds. Okay, so in that instance, if somebody fails, they try to jump across a cliff and they fail, well, they probably fall to their doom. Okay. That's possible, but it's not very exciting. Um, it's much like describing like, oh, death death should be in role-playing games, but death is actually kind of boring because once it happens, that player basically twiddles their thumb all game unless they got another character they could pull out of their ass. And there's not much story after that unless you follow the life and times of a character that's dead, right, in the spirit world or something. In which case, they're not really dead; they're just moving on and transitional, which defeats the purpose of dying in the first place. So, but what we do like to have is a consequence at the end of it. So, if someone fails and they try to jump across the chasm, they fall. So they fail. But let's say they fail forward, maybe they jump across, miss the edge, fall down, slide, and grab on some roots that are on the other side of the chasm, or they land on the ledge. So now they succeeded getting to the other side, but now they need help from their allies. Maybe they have to get a rope because they're too far down. They have to climb up the grab the roots, but the roots might slip out of the soft earth. Maybe they're only so far down that someone just has to lean over and grab their arm and pull them up, something like that. Now, success with a consequence might be similar. Maybe the same thing. They jump all the way across and they land and they're hanging by their fingertips. And all they have to do is scramble their way up. Maybe they lose an action or they lose a whole round or something similar like that. maybe they twist an ankle. I'm looking at you, Tom Cruise. They twist an ankle or something like that. Maybe that is something that happens. Of course, a complete success. They jump all the way across, tumble roll, keep on rolling, that kind of thing. And if we start to get in our minds and think about the narrative, like what Wayne was saying about the narrative, should really fit the actions of what the player characters have been doing. Let it fit what's going on. So if they are the PCs are fighting enemies in a burning building, and the stairs fall away. The roof caves in. The Something happens in another room that causes a big wave of smoke to flow into the room, and allow it to, like, oh, my character went to swing at the enemy, and I didn't miss because I'm bad. I missed because a flaming timber fell down between myself and the enemy, separating both of us. And now, in order for us to attack each other, one or both of us are going to have to maneuver around the flaming framework of the building that's collapsing around us. And this is a great way to, having foreshadowed, hey, the building's on fire, the abandoned tenement is on fire, and you're attacking bad guys. Maybe there are things that are happening in and around us, and they don't have, again, you can add extra monsters and extra NPCs in there for reinforcements, or came around the corner, or the noise calls more eyewitnesses to the events. But Drew was great. Now I want a Mission Impossible RPG. Mission Impossible, Spy Flicks Mission Impossible is a perfect example of succeeding with consequence. How many times have we seen our heroes successfully retrieve the MacGuffin, usually a box, a case, a disc, a thumb drive, to open it up and realize they can't, it's missing, it was empty, the files are corrupted, or they are uh, uh, protected. They need, right, like it's a constant state of, we succeeded a little bit, but we need something else. We got the files, now we have to decrypt them. We've have to go after the only person in the world that can decrypt this thing, but the enemy is going after that individual. We need to go after yet another MacGuffin, the individual programmer, hacker, whatever, to decrypt the files. Finally, boom, we get this individual, and we have the files. We decrypt the files. The files show us something. We don't understand what it means. All we have is a location and a doomsday device. Now we have to go find that thing. So now we have to go travel to this place. Uh-oh, that place is protected by automated missiles and drones or something. We've got to get past that. So on and so forth, right? It's a constant state of problem solving and getting past that problem. Oftentimes, like say in Mission Impossible, yeah, you throw some bad guys in there, but a lot of times it's the we need to move silently, quietly, in shadows, using disguises, intimidation, deceptions, all that kind of stuff. Zamars is jumping a chasm for a partial success. You jump and roll into a tumble. As you hit the ground, neck first, you feel the shock of the bounce down your spine and legs. You take 1d4 bludgeoning damage. Hell's yes. Right? Great idea. You suffer bludgeoning damage. You suffer a level of exhaustion because you felt something give on the inside of you. Your speed is halved because you twisted your ankle, and you're going to have to take a short rest to kind of like get the kink out. Or your speed is halved for, grab a die, 1d4 rounds or something. You land on the other side and drop something important. Pick 3 items that are important to you, and I get to figure out which one you dropped, right? Something like that. Lane says, or you make a save to see if you badly stumbled, fall injuries from your shoulder. Combat modifiers apply if failed until your heavy wound is healed. Exactly, right? And uh, listen, I know, not we all, I know that you guys, your mindset is already there to come up with these failing forward complication kind of events and things. But I feel like there's a weird sense of collective misinterpreted semantics in the tabletop gaming community where we accept a thing because everybody else accepted a thing, and those people accepted a thing because people previously to them accepted it, but it was never true. So, for example, like the idea that a D20 system is only pass fail only exists because we say it does, right? There's no rule that says it must be pass fail. Make a stealth check. You passed or failed. No, you can do it. Yeah, yep. Search Mission Impossible RPG to Google. Yeah, there's our uh Blades in the Dark. Okay, let me go backwards. Hit points semantically is a terrible, just like armor class, just like alignment, are terrible words for the thing that it represents. And so the semantics of describing armor class, alignment, hit points, we end up having we clash with each other over these words and word descriptors because the words themselves mean one thing, the description of them in a role-playing game means something else. So hit points, the way they're described, also almost sounds like downfall, stress, bad luck, running out of time, right? It's not necessarily the way it's described isn't necessarily wounds, but minor minor it could be wounds, exhaustion, bad luck, and more leading up to the point at which downfall happens. Does that arrow actually go through your chest? You have 60 hit points, you take 4 hit points? No. It means that maybe the arrow barely missed you, or maybe you deflect the arrow away, or the arrow cuts you or sticks into your armor plating and a little bit, and you get a little bit of a cut, but it's not really deep inside. And so hit points, because of the way both the game describes them and how it's implemented, kind of don't meet together, because most things that cause damage reduce your hit points, which is a percentage of your ability. It's a countdown timer rather than a timer of meat, right? Like, for example, the difference between 6 hit points and 60 hit points means that a dagger that does 1d4 damage does less percentage harm to the 60 hit point person than the 6 hit point person, even though we think the 1d4 does the same damage, which doesn't. So it's a bad descriptor. Um, Even though I mean, to me, I understand it, but whatever. Zavar brings up jumping a chasm, partial failure. You make a leap of faith, um, turning into a tumble. Your legs don't hook behind yourself properly, which turns out to be your luck as the back of your head hits the chasm face. You take 1d4 bludgeoning damage and are hanging over the edge by your legs. What do you do? Ooh, I like that. For some reason, I'm picturing hanging upside down. 60 hit points means a larger meal? What? No, 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 no. Not a larger meal. Meaning like with 6 hit points, a dagger does more of a percentage of harm to you than one with 60 hit points. So you're only it's the cinematic version of flesh wounds, of like where a person's shirt gets cut and you see like the line of blood, but they're never really hurt. Our hero is never really hurt, so they've got 60 hit points, but a unnamed NPC gets stabbed with that same knife and it goes right through their chest or their throat, right? And the hero always gets slashed until they beat the bad guy. But you see what I'm saying? It's a percentage thing, right? You could look at it that way. Wayne says hit points seem to come to mean actual physical damage, and they're not exactly that. You are exactly right about it not being exactly like that. Luck, endurance, etc., are also part of hit points in single combat, and it is described that way in the rules. But the word hit just it it, it automatically okay. In the movie Rambo, First Blood, Rambo falls slash jumps off of a cliff face and lands on the ground. Falls. We all make the joke about how can you suffer terminal velocity falling damage in a tabletop in Dungeons and Dragons and survive and get up because it doesn't make sense. And the reason it doesn't make sense is because we're using physics to describe a thing that's cinematic, right? Maybe you hit a tree or and you hit a couple of branches that starts to disrupt your fall. Now I get it if you fall off of a griffin and there's clouds in the sky and you land in a desert or like I don't know, side of a mountain, like it doesn't make sense kind of sort of, but it's a cinematic descriptor for a thing that doesn't have a cinematic wording to it. Whereas if you play the game Blades in the Dark changes hit points to the word stress. In Blades in the Dark, characters suffer stress when they have failure. Stress basically is a countdown timer to actually suffering physical harm, being captured, all that kind of stuff. They turn the corner, rival gang is there. They get into a scuffle and need to escape. They might suffer stress in the escape, and that kind of thing. So yeah. Uh, he says, DBJ, the issue with hit points is that combined with the ability to miss, such as armor class, there is no clean way to describe something missing and HP dropping versus something missing and no HP loss. I absolutely agree with you. And armor class is a combination of being completely missed by an attack or being hit by the attack, but it just doesn't have an effect. So a person with plate mail and a shield never gets missed. They're normally probably hit more often than a little bit. It's just ineffective. And we just default to calling it hit or miss. And then later on, that hit or miss becomes, we accept that as a hit or miss. But really, what it happened, it should be described as effective and ineffective. And so, yes, you are absolutely correct. There's a game called that I went over slightly yesterday called Trophy, with Trophy Dark, Trophy Gold. There's an agnostic version called Trophy Loom, and in Trophy you have something called Ruin, and Ruin is a combination of like physical harm, physical stress, psychological stress. Um, uh, and a lot of times these are semantics, and we because these indie games use those semantics, we can use that to describe succeeding, like failing forward or succeeding with cost, right? So we can say like, hey, yeah, you did pick the lock, you did get into the safe, you do get the documents, but the guards are like right there. There's no yes, you made all your stealth checks, but you failed that lock picking check. So and you failed it big time. So instead, yeah, you get it, but the guards are right on the other side of the door about to bang it down, and you're gonna have to make a run for it. Um, there are ways like, for example, we joke when someone says in game, someone tries to convince the Viscount and the Viscountess to give them money to allow them to go on a mission or something. And I need to borrow the holy sword of the land, sun sword of the land to go on this mission. PC role plays it out, grabs the dice, charisma persuasion check, rolls a 2, right? And then we're just like, oh, you must have farted. And it's like, let's not be ridiculous, right? What's the meme? Rogue goes to backstab the orc, fumbles the roll, and instead gently caresses their spine or something like that. Gently caresses their shoulders. It's like that's completely ridiculous, right? Let's not break the theme and genre to do something, to make fun of what a player character does. Maybe something else happened. Maybe you did have an impassioned speech to the Viscountess, but the Viscountess is distracted by one of her underlings who whispers something in her ear and completely just claps her hands and says, I'm done with everyone. Clear the chamber. Important business. and you're just like, oh, and maybe the Countess was convinced, but there's something more important happen, right? Some third party interrupted the thing to make the thing happen that wasn't supposed to happen, right? Oh, you made an impassioned speech, but something important happened. Maybe going back to those fronts and icons, maybe a big bad evil started happening and growing, and that interrupted what you did. Blaming bad roles on bad guys because of their effects is not a bad thing to do. Not a bad thing. Mm-mm-mm. Here it is. Zamar says that plus the fact that your stats stay low changes gameplay to something far more cautious but exploratory. There's another reason for why exploration, especially in the OSR, but exploration is important, is because as we start describing successes and failures for characters, especially as they start gaining lots of skills, lots of abilities, magic items, fantasy gaming, those kind of things, is that exploring gives the characters clues to allow them higher rates of success than they would have had they not known a thing. When he says, I think the S is silent at Viscount. Well, it isn't now. It's Vissy. Vis. I'm fucking with you. I I don't care. I I I always place the improper emphasis on the incorrect syllable all the time. So I it's Viscount? Was the well, so why is a valet called a valet in horse racing? Hmm? Pronunciationists, what do you call it? Not quite, but getting close to, well, actually isms. Yeah, I hear you. Plus, we're at the end of the show. But yeah, it's basically like it's basically encouraging the muscle to allow us to go, you know what? The idea is to give our stories, throw things into our stories that maybe they're story oriented, maybe it gives a little bit of lore involved in it, letting whether everything doesn't have to be solved by magic, but it could be a strange magical thing. Yeah, as well as like the S is in silent. The S is silent in this count. Mike says it's like those who say repost as repost as opposed to it's repulse. V as in I. Viscount. It's the Viscountess. Okay, so here. Okay, let me see if I could if you could type out the pronunciation of what's the word? It's right on the tip of my tongue. I'm thinking of too many of them, but okay, maybe we'll do a whole show about that. So as I like reposting things, it makes me seem smart. Um, oh, there is a damn. Sorry, guys, my brain just went. It literally just fried. I can't remember what I was just thinking of. Oh, I know what it is. Okay, I'm going to type a word. Uh, I'm going to type a word into the chat, and I'm going to put it up here. Okay, and I'm going to type behind it ways people pronounce this word. Here we go. And put that in the chat. Post it up. Let's see if I can put it up here. You tell me what country people pronounce that word. Just do it in your head. Just do it in your head. So I typed in the word brother for those who are listening to this. I've heard it pronounced brother, brother. Yeah, there you go. Brother. Yeah. Brother. 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 yeah. Yeah. Hey, who is that? How are they related to you? Oh, that's my brother. That's my brother. How many times have we seen? Yeah. People that are like speak perfect English don't speak perfect English. Yeah. Dropping the T's and H's. It's a brother. Bruh. Brother is German. Yeah, right, because that's how people say things. Well, the word could be, but you get my point. When he says our pronunciations vary so much because English is made up of so many different languages. Oh, I'm going to get kicked. I'm going to get kicked in the I'm not going to do it. I can't because we've gone too late. There is a there is a YouTube there is a YouTube video of an individual who let's see, worked for Wire. Is it it was Wired Language Expert Series. I'm not going to play it because I'm going to get I'm absolutely positively going to get dinged on it. But it's this guy goes through all of the languages. I think it's a 3-part series, and on this 3-part series, and let's see if I can go to it without it playing. Go to it and sympathy. Oh, there we go. Oh, this series is excellent, and I would love to do a tabletop RPG version of this where we talk about like languages and pronunciations and things of that nature, like for world building. Like people came from the elves came from the west to the east and brought with them this language with them that made it alter the accent for the people that live here. Yeah. Oh man. Mike says brother is UK, East London. Brother is Caribbean, mostly Jamaican. Yeah, brother. Hey, brother. Oh, the brother. Yes, absolutely. I've been to the Caribbean Isles a number of times. And oh, they call me brother all the time. I got the long dreads. Hey, brother, you want some ganja? And I'm just like, that's not a real thing. Before I went, I was offered weed everywhere. I probably got petitioned to buy weed more than 2 dozen times. And I've been to various Caribbean islands, maybe 8 or 9 of them, and probably over the Michael Mayer says complicated further by meandering accent as a DM. My sometimes Scottish, sometimes Irish, always dwarven accent would say it in different ways. Yes. Isn't brother jackass? Yeah. Hey, real brothers never call them each other that. But anyway, this series in Wired by this accent expert is sweet and goes through all like the language changes and tells you how to speak the different pronunciations and such. It is an excellent series. I think they're each about this one's 20 minutes long, so I would say probably um this entire series is an hour, a little bit more, something like that. So, and I know the minute I start playing it, although other people have gone played this and not gotten dings, so I don't know. But anyway, I got to get out of here. So I always go too long. So guys, thank you so much for being part of the show. Please, please, let's not try to embarrass our players by saying their characters are failures in their expertise. Instead, let's just come up with complications, conditions, physical conditions: blinded, deafened, twisted ankles, hurt back, lame leg, arm goes numb, dropping items, spilling things and having to recover them. the let's add a little bit more of that. You do the thing that you thought would make you successful, but there's something else behind it. Yay, you broke into the safe. You get into the safe and there's a locked box and you can't get the box open and there's no, like, it's a solid cube. And you're like, oh, well, I'll take it with me since I can't open it up right now, right? Like adding little things like that. Use the environment, um, all that kind of stuff. Please do that. Uh, Epic level Crassus, have an incredible day and excellent show as always. Thank you, Epic level Craft. Do me a favor, Epic level Craft. Um, Drop a comment in a video or something so I can see it, to let me know what else you are doing, if so, right? Like, do you have a blog or a website, or are you a content creator or something like that? Because for some reason my mind is not placing the name. So please do that. Yep. Everybody have a wonderful day as well. Gotta get out of this place. Don't know if I'll ever get back. Guys, have a great one. Peace.